Yes.
We'll have Anthony Brooks.
Thanks, Grant.
He's not here yet?
No, we called her.
Okay.
And Mr. Maynard is
Mr. Maynard? Okay, well, we could take you now and then we'll have our morning tea adjournment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Maynard? So this is the next, after the next one, so it's page 48. Good morning.
Morena, Your Worship, councillors. Thanks, B, for giving me this opportunity of talking to you. I live in Littleton and there's some great stuff that's gone on there recently. The reopening of Sumner Road and Evans Pass is great. Through the port company, the Tiana Marina, and we hope in the not too distant future, improvements to Naval Point, and it'll give the whole area a lift. So we look forward to all of that. In my submission, I neglected to congratulate councillors and staff for the hard work they put into the long-term plan. So I do so now. It's a tremendous body of work which has taken many, many hours of effort. There is much to commend in the plan, though I do question the notion of spending money on a covered stadium. I declare at the outset that I do not share most Kiwis' fixation on sport, but what I do see is an enthusiasm that does not require extravagant surroundings. I think it was a film that said, if you build it, they will come. Well, if they were the average Kiwi sports enthusiast, they would. But the people in charge of sport are hard-nosed businessmen, and they do not see it like that. Ask Dunedin. A quarter of the population live in Auckland, 2/3 in the North Island. Rugby New Zealand do not care about us, even though the Crusaders are the best rugby team ever, I am reliably informed. So don't spend our money on a stadium they won't use, and if they won't come, is it worth spending all that money just to get one or two musical megastars along? I would be surprised if the city makes much money out of such events. I could be equally cynical about a convention centre, but that is different from a practical perspective. The people who go to conventions usually do so at other people's expense, and in their time off they experience the leisure facilities available, often too at their company's expense, and go on trips around our beautiful country and spend up large. And if they like it here, they may come back, or at least recommend us to their friends and colleagues. The local rugby fans would follow their team without any incentives, so the convention centre and stadium cases are quite different. Asset sales. I'm against asset sales ideologically, but it does seem that even from a purely capitalist point of view, it'd be unwise at this point, as I mentioned in my submission. I won't say that again. The rates basis. I believe that the city should be doing its best for all its citizens. There are many residents living at or near poverty levels, yet they pay proportionally more than the rich and powerful in this city. The latter are articulate and are adept at presenting their own interests and do so. I believe it is incumbent upon you, our councillors, to redress this balance. You should be moving as much charge as possible to the value-based rate from the UAGC. The living wage. Another way of promoting a fairer society is to ensure that the living wage as an absolute minimum is paid to anyone involved with the council. It is shameful that many people who are in full-time employment are unable to make ends meet simply because they are not being paid enough and they have to have government subsidies of one sort or another. It's easy enough to include the living wage condition in contracts, but it needs enforcing. Surely, each person who works directly or indirectly for the council must sign in somewhere or complete a timesheet. These could be used to monitor compliance with the living wage requirement, if coupled with inquiring of those end workers of their circumstances. Kia ora koutou motu ronga. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I just want to repeat some figures that I used the other day when somebody else submitted on the Uniform Annual General Charge. And I haven't got the numbers for the year before or the years before this, but 2004 to 2005, the Uniform Annual General Charge represented 9.4% of the rates take. And the proposal in this one, when you add the Uniform Annual General Charge and the fixed rates, takes it to 9.5%. So it is still within that range of where, you know, of this, it's the same proportion, and you use the word proportion, so it's a very, you know, in terms of where we've got to, there are some things that are paid per property rather than paid per value of property. The significance of the difference in the rates bill for a high value property, but a pensioner who has no increase in his or her income is dependent on where that property is. So I think we've tried to find a balance sitting under the 10%. I know other councils have gone beyond that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but when you're looking at the very lowly paid sector, even very small changes can make a tremendous amount of difference to their disposable income. So even shaving 0.5% or 1% off it could make a very big difference to those folk. I realise that the tool you have is a rather blunt one in that it's property based and not income based,
Yeah.
but it's the best you have.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing that we have, which is why central government is looking at whether there are other ways of
Yes.
Funding local government.
The system is imperfect.
The system is very imperfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for your submission.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll take an adjournment. Is Anthony Brooks coming in? We've not heard, so that may be. He was due here at 11 o'clock, so the next submission is due at 11:20. So if you